Watching about a cruise.
No, but can you get me like like I tried to force
I gotta mute somebody here.
I couldn't even swallow it. It tastes so good.
The last week I reached out and I opened up the refrigerator and I'm like, well, probably a lot of it. Open this stuff.
Where is that coming from? Let's see.
And then I had to think and I'm like, you know. You don't know what did.
Okay. No, still. If anyone has not muted themselves, please mute yourself because I'm getting some feedback here. Got it. I got the culprit. Okay, so I apologize for that. Let's get started on our journey on the Dutch waterways, Holland and Belgium. So Bruce has chosen a date, a wonderful date. Tulip time is something that is a sort of a brief time on the calendar. You've got about 5 or 6 weeks where you can, look at some of the most astounding tulips, certainly in Europe, if not the world. And the season for us, the sailing season for this itinerary is usually the last 2 weeks of March, all of April, and then and also the first week of May, let's say. But it's a bit of a, guessing game. You don't know exactly when the tulips are going to be most in bloom. So I think Bruce has done his homework here and chosen a date that is typically in the sweet spot. And it's not till 2025, but April, the second week of April, the third week of April are almost always, I don't want to touch the money here and jinx us, but almost always the two most central weeks within the season, the tulip season. So this is a great departure date. And then you have your very handsome hosts here. We failed to talk about Tony there and announce Tony. Tony is on the mend. He's doing much better, and Tony will be helping Bruce with the entire group project. So Tony, welcome this evening. And Bruce, he's the man. I mean, he's a great guy. I've known him for I don't know 6 or 7 years now, but he kind of grows on you, and he's a good group leader, and everybody likes him. So we're gonna have a fun time. So this is the ship. I don't know how many. I know some of the folks on the call tonight were with Bruce on the Danube last year, but not everybody, let's say, has been on a river cruise. So I don't want to talk as though you have knowledge of the product, what it is. The ship you'll be on in April of 25 is the Amacerto. It's a lovely ship. She holds about 156 guests, has a crew of 45 to 50. Most of the staterooms will be twin balcony staterooms. We'll look at one of those in a few moments. You've got 2 restaurants, a main restaurant and a specialty restaurant. You've got a very well-appointed guest lounge where we do a sip and sail every night, open bar every night before dinner. You've got that sun deck you see on the top. You've got a walking track around it. You've got a heated pool with a swim-up bar, and you've got plenty of chairs and awnings and things like that to do viewing while we're sailing in daytime. This is what when we say a twin balcony stateroom, about 80%, 85% of the staterooms on this particular ship would look like this, where your category Bs, BBs, BAs, ABs, and Bruce and Tony know what I'm talking about when I'm using the codes for the staterooms, but they basically look like this. And on this ship, they range from 210 square feet all the way up to, let's see, about 235 square feet. And then you get the double A's go over 300 square feet. And this is very important in the river cruising market, in that the ships are all the same size. If you're going on certain rivers, the locks are a certain size, and the criteria, the specifications are every ship has to be certain length, certain width. So all the ships on these waterways are 38 feet wide by 443 feet in length. So a 210 to 235 square foot twin balcony stateroom is one of the best in the industry. Okay, you've got a queen size bed in there. You can see the balcony on the left side of the image. The chairs are on the outside. In the morning, you can be drinking your coffee out there. In the evening, you could be drinking wine or whatever your favorite drink is out there. And then on the right side, you can see another balcony, but the chair is inside. That's what we call in the industry a French balcony. And that is that those doors open, but you can't sit out there. The railing is there, right? So it's a very well appointed stateroom, plenty of space for all of your things. What's not pictured in the frame here is you've got two closets that open up entirely, and you've got dressers in there, and you've got hangers in there. So there's plenty of room for your stuff. Same thing in the bathroom. You've got plenty of room for toiletries and things like that, and even as well thought as the beds are a little higher off the ground, so when you're done emptying your luggage, you just slide them under the bed. So on a river ship, space is a very important commodity. So that's an important thing. The good sized staterooms here. And then cuisine. So what's the food like on a river ship? This is the first thing that people want to know. The important thing about a river ship and cuisine and restaurant food is that everything's fresh. We bring on new ingredients every day, new food stuff every day. When the guests leave in the morning to go on their daily excursions is when a lot of the local vendors come and bring us new supplies. We don't freeze anything on the ship. Nothing needs to be frozen because everything's fresh. We make our own breads. We make our own pastries. We make our own ice cream. And you will see two menus on the ship as we travel. The left side of the menu is the European menu. That menu changes daily by reflecting where we are, what country are we in, what region of the country we in. You'll get a beef offering, poultry, fish offering, vegetarian offering. And then you have on the right side of the menu, you have more of a North American fare, and that would not change. So every night, if you want something a little different from the European stuff, you can get a strip steak, a New York strip steak. You can get a cheeseburger at lunch, more of what we would consider maybe comfort foods. And you can mix and match those menus. Breakfast and lunch is part buffet and part plated and part hosted stations, things like that, carving stations, things like that. So most of what we're eating on the ship is, well, it's all very fresh. Most of it's very good for you. Some of it is very decadent. And that's the fun part, right? So you get some really great, especially this part of the world in Holland and Belgium, some of the best pastries, some of the best chocolates. Belgian chocolates are literally to die for. So we're known for cuisine. It's 5-star cuisine. We've got a main restaurant. We've got a specialty restaurant. This is the chef's table restaurant. Everybody gets to do this at least once on a 7-night cruise. It is a combination of main courses and tapas courses and paired with local wines. And it's a smaller restaurant. It's in the aft of the ship. It's holds about 26 guests. You sign up for it, you reserve it when you get on the ship. There's no upcharge, it's included in the program. And the head chef comes out and introduces each course and tells you about the wines and the ingredients in what he's prepared that evening. And it's a lot of fun. Bruce, do you have fond memories of the Chef's Table restaurant on the Danube?
Yes, I mean, the menu is definitely different than what you would get in the main dining room, but the service was great. It was interesting hearing about the different wines and just the way they prepare all the different dining and stuff like that. It was a good experience.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun and people look forward to it. Like if you're signed up for Wednesday of that week, you're sort of waiting and you're asking other guests during the day, hey, did you eat at the Chef's Table restaurant? What was it like? That kind of thing. It's kind of neat. So that's a really interesting experience. We have before dinner every night, this is my favorite. This is my favorite hour of every day is the sip and sail. Not because I like to drink a lot, but because it's after everyone's been out for the day, excursion in the morning, excursion after lunch, and we have many excursions. So people do a lot of different things, and you get back to the guest lounge, and we've opened the bar, signature cocktails, local wines, fine wines, beers, things like that. And people are meeting each other. It's very comfortable. There's there's
You don't have to
sofas,
thank me,
there's
but
love
you do have
seats,
to
so on
acknowledge
and
that
so
you've
forth.
received this.
Yeah, there we go. And so it's a really interesting hour. It's a chance to meet other folks on the ship. Most of our guests would come from the United States, some from Canada. It's a chance to compare notes, compare photographs, have a few alcoholic beverages, and it's a beautifully appointed guest lounge, floor to ceiling panoramic windows. So if we're sailing, you can see where we're going up or down river. I just really enjoy it. And also the cruise manager is also giving some direction, maybe some housekeeping, talking about what the entertainment's going to be later in the evening, after dinner, talking about the timing of the excursions the next day, so on and so forth. So it's a lot of fun. People get loose, people make new friends. And I would say, I mean, the beer and wine in this part of Europe, the beer, certainly, if there are any beer aficionados on the call, some of the Belgian blonde beers are fantastic. Some of their amber beers are fantastic. And some of the wines that we'd bring in some local wines, and we'd import some wines as well. So a good opportunity to have a few cocktails before dinner. And then beer and wine are also included with lunch and dinner, so you can continue drinking beer and wine with dinner. And Bruce, this is your group from just a little over a year ago now. This is
I haven't lost that much hair since then. That's good. Okay.
Sorry, go ahead. So where did you start on this? And then the Amalia is a beautiful ship. You start in Budapest, or did you start?
Started in Budapest and ended in Wilhelmshaven or something like that.
Yeah, okay, good. So a great experience, and based on this experience, I don't remember exactly when you told me, but you told me a few months back. You said, "Let's do a President's Cruise. I want to do this again. I have the bug. Let's do this." So it took a
It
couple.
was great. You know, one of the things I really like too is that when you go on an ocean cruise, you know, you're up really early to make an excursion. You know, the excursions start early. You're off the ship at 0700. Here we didn't get up until 8 o'clock, 7:30. And you have a nice leisurely breakfast, and you really don't get off the ship until about 9. You're back around 1 o'clock for lunch. And then because you're docked right there, you just kind of go back off and do your own thing for a few hours. Unless you're going to another destination, which happened a couple of times. But it was just very easy.
Easy, comfortable, laid back, easy. You're spot on. And you brought up some good points. So, breakfast is 7:30 to 9. Most of the excursions start at 9:30. Now, early risers, we have a coffee station. We have a place for early risers in the guest lounge to get breakfast. But yes, it's much more laid back. There's a structure there, but it's not super regimented where you couldn't miss out on anything. And with the excursions, you can sign up in advance or you can sign up on the ship, right? So, and we'll go through the excursions, how easy it is to sign up and how to make a decision on what you want to do. We'll do that. So here's the actual itinerary on a very, very, very basic map, not a map to scale, I would point out. So what you have is these are what are referred to the Dutch waterways. And technically they're not rivers, technically they're canals. And because you're in the Netherlands, you're in Holland, the Holland part of the Netherlands, these waterways are the water levels are controlled, right? So you're never going to have any issues with high water or low water or anything like that. The Dutch are very good at controlling the water levels. I mean, Amsterdam is below water level. We know that. We're all sort of marvel at that, right? What they've done with that. So what you have is you'd start in Amsterdam, and then you can see the visit up to Hoorn, Zaandam, Haarlem, Keukenhof, the famous Keukenhof Gardens, Kinderdijk, where some of the older, more famous windmills are located. Delft is a really a really nice small port city just north of Rotterdam. Rotterdam is a really important port town. Middelburg also with some nice small castles and lighthouses and windmills. And then Bruges, you get to the Belgium side in Bruges, Ghent, and Antwerp. So a really, really stunning beyond the tulips that we're going to be looking at. And there's also flower shows in April. You're also going to be able to see a really nice flower show in Antwerp. But beyond that, it's a really nice itinerary, very interesting. And the architecture and the culture and the history and the food, very interesting stuff. So this is what draws everyone's attention to this 6-week itinerary. The 6-week time frame. What we're doing this is the tulips in some of the tulip farms there that we visit. We start off in Amsterdam. We do have you can come early and be hosted by AMA Waterways for 2 nights in Amsterdam, where you'll meet the cruise manager at the hotel. The cruise manager will be at your hotel that you're staying at for both the days that you're there. And we do have some sightseeing, and then you have some time on your own, but you have access to the cruise manager. We have a concierge desk at the hotel where you can ask the cruise manager to make reservations for you or get directions or what have you. So we're there kind of hosting your pre-cruise stay. And then one of the things that we do is, Amsterdam is a very famous canal city, and we find that the canal cruise tour, when we're there on smaller boats, almost like tenders, the boats hold about 15 guests, and there is narration on the boat. This is a better way to see Amsterdam, a more efficient way to see Amsterdam than doing a walking tour. You can do a walking tour. Actually just did Amsterdam a few weeks ago with a group, and we did do a walking tour because I've already done the canal cruise many times. So my wife and I and some of our guests did a walking tour. But typically, my recommendation would be, if you've not been to Amsterdam, do the canal cruise, because you can get to all the nooks and crannies where cars can't get, and would take you longer to walk, right? So I think it's a really cool way to see Amsterdam and to understand that Amsterdam is a very eclectic city. It changes from neighborhood to neighborhood. People live on houseboats. They've just run out of space for apartments and houses and condos, and now people are living on these beautiful houseboats. So it's just a really interesting and a very different city certainly from anything in the States and from most cities in Europe. So it's a great visit. And when we do excursions in Amsterdam, if you do a bike ride, you do some other walking on your own, do things like that. When you go with us, the excursions are very small groups. So usually 12 to 15 guests per excursion, per walking group. If we get to 20, we would split the group. So we like to have smaller, more intimate sized groups. And we usually finish an excursion with some type of tasting. We might take you into, we just did something where we finished in a pastry shop and had some homemade pastry that was literally to die for. So there's always something, a specialty of the region or the part of the country that we're in, where we can stop in. In Belgium, you will do some chocolate tasting. Trust me on that. And that's a pretty interesting thing. And to go into a local confectionery and have the owner come out and fresh chocolates, it's kind of a nice way to end a morning tour or afternoon tour. Okay. And then talk about some of the gastronomy here in Amsterdam. Some of the excursions might end in a bakery where you try stroopwafels. These are handheld cinnamon, usually cinnamon flavored, other things like that, nutmeg, things like that. Handheld, hard pressed waffle with a little drizzle with some syrup on it, and they're delicious. And we got a first hand. We got to go back into the kitchen with the owner of this particular bakery, and he pulls a tray of them out of the oven and serves them to you warm. And it was a lot of fun. Bitterballen is something you can do on your own in the cafes at night, the pubs. And they're sort of like a Dutch version of a meatball, right? So not like an Italian meatball, though, more like a slider, like a slider hamburger. And it's what people eat in pubs as appetizers when they're drinking beer. So Bitterballen, and the Jordan district is a place we just did a walking tour of this myself with my wife and some of our guests. It's just a nice part of it's a district in Amsterdam with a lot of nice restaurants and pubs and cafes. So if you can sign up for a walking tour there, or you can do something like that on your own if you come in early. Rotterdam is currently the largest port city in Northern Europe. And actually it's where our river cruises and most of the industry's river cruises are built in the shipyards in Rotterdam. So a very, very important city with regard to commerce for the Netherlands. And it's a very modern city. It's kind of a mix of modern and older architecture. You can see here, you can see the houseboats here. We go through all these images and we choose which ones we want to present when we're talking about a particular itinerary. This is an image that I'm kind of fond of because you can see in the background, you see a very new age suspension bridge. And then in the foreground, you can see these kind of older houseboats and this beautiful building with the clock right in the center there. Just a really nice image. It sort of is what Rotterdam is, a mixture of older artistic things and high tech. It's a very high tech city. There's the market hall there. This is Delfshaven, which I think I referred to earlier. Very small. It is a port. I wouldn't call it a city. It's a town. I'm really in love with these different size and different shape buildings that are sort of pressed together here. They're different colors, different bricks. And these are the backs of people's buildings. And you can still get into your house or apartment or condo by boat, right? In the back, and on the front, you'd probably pull up your bicycle, let's say. So just very different, again, very different, almost like going to Venice without all the water issues they have in Venice, right? So Delfshaven is very interesting. We get into Belgium. Antwerp is a beautiful city. It's an old city. You can see a lot of really old cathedrals and other structures here. It's a great walking city. This is where the let me see if I can pronounce it right. Florilia Garden Festival is in April. So good for you, because it's only in April. And so you'll get to also visit those botanical gardens, and they are stunning. And so they basically, and the city, and this is true of Belgium and Holland, that the city is always manicured, maintained so well. The cities are spotless. There's nothing on the ground. Everybody has flower boxes in their homes and their businesses, and they're all maintained really well. You'll be beyond the tulip farms and gardens. You will be impressed by how much color you see just going into these towns and cities. They're really into color, adding color through flowers and plants to the landscape. So I really enjoy this itinerary. I really enjoy this part of Europe. There's Antwerp. So this is the city center here. This is the town square. And in April, this will just be filled with flowers. There'll be flowers everywhere. There'll be flower stands. It's already colorful with all the flags, but you can add so much to it when you get to April. So you will really enjoy Antwerp. Middelburg is a small, somehow I think this might be a little out of place in my presentation here. Middelburg, I think this should have been a couple slides earlier. I apologize. And you can see a windmill there on the right-hand side, and you can see a cathedral structure on the left-hand side, a true medieval town of Middelburg. Now, Keukenhof, I think, is the main draw of what your clients want to see here, Bruce. So we have a full day in Keukenhof Gardens. They are not in Amsterdam. There's about 25, 30 minutes outside of Amsterdam, a little bit northwest, and I think just north of Haarlem, the city of Haarlem. And I think currently the largest tulip farm in all of Europe. Every September, they plant 7 million tulip bulbs, all different varieties, and then they come out late March, mid-April, and into May, and then in end of May they dig up the better part of 7 million tulip bulbs, and they start all over again. They do not have them come up again, right? Like we would if we planted bulbs in our gardens, right? So, and you have more varieties here than any other tulip farm in Europe. And you'll see, we have tulip farms here in New England, certainly. My wife and I visit one that's down in Rhode Island, and we get some nice bulbs. But nothing like this. We don't see all the different colors blended and all the different varieties. So it's really a stunning visit. This is actually just a photograph of two of our guests from a couple of years ago that gave us consent to use this image in one of our presentations. And then just a couple of insider tips about if you've not river cruised before, or even if you have river cruised before. So I mentioned earlier that everything's controlled by hydro dams or other ways to control the waterways. So you don't have to worry about high water or low water. And then the neat thing here, little neat thing, I think, is that you're not traveling great distances nautically on the ship. We're not going like the stretch of the Danube or the stretch of the Rhine. Those are much longer rivers. But so in this case, and in many cases, 2 or 3 days in a row, you might get the same local guide, which I think is really cool. So if you get a local guide that you're really connected with or that you like, you could get them more than one time, because it's easy for them to travel and meet the ship the next day and the next day. We're not going great distances there. And then the other thing is we do carry bicycles on the ship. We have 26 touring bicycles. So every day we'll offer 3 different walking tours by pace, a gentle pace walking tour for those who have maybe mobility issues, a normal pace walking tour, and an active pace walking tour. And then we also offer hikes each day, and we offer these bike rides. In Holland and Belgium, it's flat. Everything's flat. So you really no steep grades, no rough road. So if you are a biker and you're not sure that you want to do this, please be assured that it's a place that's more friendly to bike riders, and we go out with two guides with you as well. So just food for thought there. And that's the presentation. I didn't give you this is the abridged version, so we didn't. I hope we didn't. If I glossed over anything, Bruce, let me know. And let's see, we can open it up to Q&A now if people want to unmute and ask questions. Then we go back to what's going on with Anthony's computer there. We go back to the Hollywood Squares look, and we can have just a discussion. It's an intimate group here, so if you have any questions, let me know. Bruce, anything you want to bring up?
So I have all the pricing for all the different categories, and I have everybody's email here, so I will definitely send that out probably over the weekend. And then people can pick the cabins, and I'll give the description of what the different categories are, square footage, and all that type of thing. To make a reservation, you do have to do a deposit at the same time, I believe, if I'm correct. And I think it's a $400 non-refundable deposit per person.
It's half.
We
It's
get
50% non-refundable. $200 is non-refundable.
right, half of it's non-refundable, and then we'll get insurance prices as well. It's way too early to see what airfare is. You can do the 2-night pre in Amsterdam that they're offering. I'll get you the price on that. That doesn't have to be added right away either. I think last time people added it, a few weeks later, a month later, a couple of months later. But this is about the time that we booked. We booked the April
Yeah.
22 and September of 20. So we're kind of right in that same time frame that we did it the last time.
Right.
Prices the last time were a little bit less because we got a good COVID discount because pricing was down. Nobody knew what it was going to be like. But the ships, 160 passengers. It's not like it's a big cruise liner, so it doesn't take long for these ships to fill. And because the season is, you're doing the Danube or the Rhine, it goes not all year long, but you can do it in April. You could do it up until October, November, until you do the Christmas markets. So there's ships every day. But this is a little different because it's a very much more seasonal situation.
Unique.
Unique.
Yeah. And
Um,
you bring up a good point there, Bruce, because it's a 6-week season versus, yes, the Rhine, we have 4 ships on the Rhine. We have 5 ships on the Danube. So you have choices, more choices. You are smart to get out in front of this early on because usually 12 months out, this week would be sold out. This week and the week after would be sold out. So you're good to get going on it early. It is a $400 deposit. Final payment is not due till 90 days prior. So that gives you till what, January, February?
yeah, right after the holidays.
But you have almost 2 years to get ready for this, right? So and you do have a good group rate. You've got a good group promo on that. You did negotiate a good rate with our group department. So you've got that working for you. So, but yeah, we won't know about air for a while, but I will say the good thing about this is airwise is it's Amsterdam, and there's 2 really nice nonstops from if your folks, I don't know where your folks are all from, but from Boston, you've got a nonstop on KLM and you've got a nonstop on Delta. So it's pretty good
I
service.
think from Philly, there's nonstop service. I believe nonstop service. I've never been to Amsterdam, so we're looking forward to that. Not even, not just the cruise. I mean, the cruise would be great. We just had a really good experience. I think, the 2 Kathys on here, Pauline will say the same thing.
Yeah.
It was great. The food was great. The service on the ship was just, they couldn't do more for you. And they're very good with allergies, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had somebody that had a gluten allergy, and after the first day, the gluten bread was waiting for her when she got there in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had everything was set up. They knew what they had to do.
Right. And if you know,
Yeah, it was wonderful. I can't say enough good things
Yeah.
about Alma.
okay, so
Yeah.
any questions, any particular specifics that we didn't address that you want to know about? Currency, attire. I didn't go into the actual excursions in detail because we could go on for hours literally. But I mean I'm available to answer more questions along the way. And Bruce and Tony know that. So
Wendy, did you have a question? Unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself. Wendy, unmute yourself. No.
Okay, sorry, everybody. I have to jump off, but it was great to see everybody again. I look forward to this cruise.
All right, see you later.
Thanks, Kathy.
Can you unmute Wendy? Or you can't unmute her?
I think she just disappeared. Oh no, there she is. I can
I
unmute.
remuted me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
What is the single supplement?
What's the single supplement? Do we know?
Yeah,
I have to check that.
We have to check the typical. It depends on the stateroom category.
Is there an age?
So usually the Ds and Es are 25%, and above that it's 50%. But we'd have to check and see if there's a solo promo on this sailing. We'd have to take a look at that. So never more than 50%, sometimes 25, and then sometimes it varies based on the stateroom category you're booking.
Okay, and is there an age minimum to go on the ship? Like if
we
you
don't-
have a, you have a teenager or something?
you can have teenagers can come on the ship.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't,
So with
I
regard
mean, I
to,
think it's,
go ahead, Bruce. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think the kids would find it would be a little tough for finding them for things to do on the ship.
Right.
Yeah,
So there's
I
a
have a lot of like,
there's a hard stop at 12 usually. But if you have, usually we qualify people. We ask them, where else have your teenage children been? Have they been to Europe? And we let them know that there's not a separate menu for young people. There's not separate excursions for young people. But I have traveled with quite a few young people that go back and forth to Europe with their parents all the time, and it's not an issue. But it's not advisable for certain young people, I would say, right?
and will they divide the beds if you have two
Yes,
friends?
absolutely. Yeah.
And are gratuities included or no?
No, it's a guideline. It's an honor system guideline. It's not a line item on the invoice. So, maybe, Bruce knows what the guidelines are. He can share them with you. But when you get on the ship, maybe the second to last day, there's just a note in your cabin saying, this is how it works, and this is the rough estimate. But it's anonymous. You just can charge whatever you want to your stateroom. We even have old-fashioned cash lockbox by the reception, bolted to the wall. You just put money in there anonymously. So it's whatever you feel. Our owners are very old school, and they feel like if we put a standard amount there and just add it to the invoice, he wants to make sure that the crew works really hard every week to earn a nice tip. That's how he feels about tipping. So he's old school. It works that way. We ask him every year. Most of our competitors just put the X percentage in, just like when you go to a restaurant and there's 20% built in because it's a group. He doesn't believe in that. So you're on the honor system, and hopefully the staff goes over and above what your expectations are.
Okay. And is there a gym or yoga or any types of classes?
Good. That's great. We have a wellness instructor on all the ship. So we start yoga and Pilates classes in the morning at 6 and then again at 6:30. And I think that while not everyone appreciates that, people like myself who travel for a living and am a yogi.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm a hatha guy. I do appreciate, now I'm not going to maybe get as much stretch time or exercise time as I would when I'm home, but I appreciate starting each day with a 15 or 20-minute yoga class led by somebody who travels with us. They have a stateroom, and they're our wellness instructor. So so that's important. And there's even sometimes like an afternoon stretch class, and you can actually approach the person and say, tomorrow, can we do a little more of this? You can actually guide what the program will be in the morning. Because again, if you have a ship of 160 passengers, maybe you get 10 people in each class, right? That's most what you're going to, unfortunately, but it's true. But we do offer that. And then for fun, we have something in the evenings. Sometimes in the evenings, we have champagne yoga where we're drinking more champagne than yoga. So yes, under the
I
moonlight.
like that idea. Merging two things I love.
Yeah, so we did think of that.
Nice.
So it isn't, like I said, it's important to some people, so we have it there, and I think it works great.
That's all I had.
Yeah.
I think we touched on how every destination, every stop has 3 or 4 excursion choices that you can pick from. Those are all included in the price.
Right.
Beer and wine at lunch and dinner, and then the cocktail hour prior to dinner. They still have afternoon tea like they had it.
Oh yeah.
An afternoon tea just in case you get hungry.
Right. There are afternoon snacks and tea put out, and there's lectures on the ship, and there's things to do on the ship. If we're in dock and you're not off the ship, or if we're sailing, there's things to do during the day. There's entertainment at night. We didn't really talk about that. Not a big ship. It's not like a big ocean cruise ship. So the entertainment's going to be You know, like maybe a jazz guitarist one night, or a a string quartet or something like that, or some folk dancers come on, stuff that's local. They don't travel with us. They come on the ship after dinner. They do their act for an hour and a half, let's say. They get off the ship. That's in the guest lounge. We have a piano in there. We have a gentleman usually a gentleman, I want to say. We have a lounge lizard, a gentleman that plays the piano for us during the afternoons and evenings.
And if you
Well,
wanted to go off the ship after dinner, you can,
that's the other
unless
good,
you're
yeah,
pulling away.
that's the other good point, because especially on this itinerary, with the exception of getting you to Kuchenhof, I don't think there's any coaching here. This is all walk right off the ship and you meet your local guide, or like Bruce said, if you got a couple hours to kill after lunch and we're still in dock, you go back and you do your thing. It's your vacation. We don't expect people to stay on the ship unless there's some activity going on. And same thing after dinner. We are not offended if somebody gets on the ship and they're doing something that, you've maybe seen before or what have you. Get back off the ship. That's what the daytime excursions are for, to kind of get the lay of the land, and maybe you want to go back and have a glass of wine somewhere, or do some shopping somewhere, or go back and see something that you wanted to spend more time at during the day. You'll always know the nautical schedule. We won't leave without you, right? It's really hard to leave somebody behind on a river ship, and we're not going that far anyway. You could probably get in a cab and be at the next port before we are, honestly. So it's your vacation. It's, the ship is your floating hotel, floating restaurants, floating bar, so on and so forth. The service is phenomenal. The people will wow you. They just live to make your day. But it's your vacation, so get off the ship as many times as you want. And you're traveling in a group with a group. You're traveling with Bruce and his lovely wife, and you're going to go off the ship and walk around and do stuff and have fun. And I mean, that's the whole idea of traveling with a group. So, and hopefully your group gets bigger along the way, because there'll be other really neat people on the ship too. So don't be afraid to venture off. It's one of the safest places you could be. And you'll come back and you'll feel a little depressed at how clean the cities are and how well kept everything is, and that everybody has a manicured flower box. And then you'll come back to New England and say, "What? I got to do more work on my property." That kind of so, yeah, it's a nice itinerary. I've done it a couple of times. I've done it in tulip time, and I've actually done it outside of tulip time. And that's why I do stress that I get it. We're there for the tulips and the flowers, but the cities are really interesting. Ghent and Bruges are beautiful. It's just beautiful. And
That's the other thing I wanted to mention too, what I really liked about the Danube itinerary, and it's going to be the kind of similar here, is that you had the big cities of Budapest, Vienna, and then we ended up off the river in Prague. But then you got to Bratislava, you got to Salzburg, you got to Linz, you got to Melk, you did all these little villages. And that was just as unique as going to the bigger cities.
right.
It was kind of cool when you're sailing down, you're looking at life going on these rivers, and it's so much different than like a big cruise ship, because when you pull into a port, kind of that port was built for the cruise. Like you go to Alaska and do an Alaska cruise, which we loved, but all the port cities, basically, except for Juneau, was built for tourists. Little different on a river cruise. Those cities and villages were there much before there were river cruises.
Yeah.
It was just a nice mix of big and little.
Right. And river cruising was not even thought of until the 1990s. It didn't peak until probably 2010.
Wow.
And you're talking about towns and cities that are medieval, that literally go back to the 12th century, the 13th century. And a lot of that stuff, provided it wasn't bombed by the Allies during the Second World War, a lot of that stuff is still there. Most of the Netherlands and Brussels were unscathed. Okay, not all, but most. So you have a lot of these original buildings that are just fantastic. We couldn't build things in today's economy because these what they used, marble and all these other things you need to build. These buildings are too expensive now, right? So you have these buildings that are 600, 700, 800 years old, and they take really good care of them, and it's fascinating to see. And then just even again, I don't want to overstate this, but even just to go to these little port towns and cities where you see how the houses are, I don't know how they get away with it. It's just every house is a different shape and size and color, but they're just pressed together, and it looks like a little storybook, or it looks like a painting or something. It's really cool. I mean, it's just really cool. So I mean, the whole feel of it is great, and you get that kind of Dutch Holland. I know everybody thinks about clogs and windmills, but it's so much more. I mean, there's so much more to Holland and Belgium than what we think the traditional touristy things are. The food is great, the seafood is great. If guys, if there's anyone on here who likes a good draft beer, some of the best beer in the world comes from the Netherlands and Belgium, honestly. So just great experience all around, cuisine wise, beer and wine, and then just easy to get around. Just very like Bruce said earlier, there's no 8 o'clock departure. There's nothing like that. It's breakfast is whenever you show up. You got an hour and a half window for the regular breakfast, and you can get up for early riser. You can get up and do your yoga, Wendy, and then just go and get your breakfast. And it's all good. It's all good. Yeah.
Well, thank you both. It's very enjoyable, and I'll be awaiting your information.
Anybody, any other questions or anything? Okay,
Great job,
So-
everybody. Thank you for your time.
thank you. Again, I'll get everything out over the weekend, most likely, to everybody that signed up, and then we can go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
everybody.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Bye.
See you guys in Boston in a month.
Okay, I'm looking forward